Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. Um, William Martin in the comment section actually brought up a point that has been mentioned loosely. I know the topic has at least been broached by DE, even in the dev streams. Um, William Martin said, I get everyone's frustration, but honestly, the toxicity towards DE from this DE stress and the Veilbreaker quest is super unnecessary and uncalled for. Just seems like whining at this point rather than constructive criticism. It was in response to my DevStream 165 review, just sort of like a off the cuff talk about it. And this does bring a pretty interesting idea in a more meta sense. I'll try to keep like any existential comments about it. Just refrain from it. But the idea of like constructive criticism and what counts as constructive criticism, and which is more valuable. Like obviously the forums are a cesspool. But D obviously valuing constructive criticism. I think this really comes down to whether a person receiving criticism. It's one of those things where it's like the person receiving criticism, if they understand that the person is speaking somewhat emotionally, they're incredibly frustrated, but they're giving their raw, valued opinion. I don't ever see this personally, like when I say like I'm dealing at work or something like that. If I receive a comment from somebody where they say something, or even if they're in a bad mood or they snap, but they say something that's generally not processed and like constructed and maybe like incredibly well thought out, that has innate value. So the idea of DE preferring constructive criticism personally only feels like one of two things. They're looking for reasons to dismiss feedback. Like, say, for example, the Yareli quest. In terms of, like, personal responsibility and what counts as fair, as a consumer, a person on the consumer side of the equation, where DE is trying to make a game that is good enough that I am willing to part with my money on it. The minimum bar for what counts as constructive criticism, because I am a consumer and I am free to go wherever I want, is literally, this isn't fun. Actually, if you think about it, it's even less than that. The only bar that needs to be met is another game is more fun to me, is more enjoyable, because I, as a consumer, am looking to maximize my enjoyment because this is not a job. Like maybe if I was like a content creator, and I had like sort of hung my hat on Warframe, if you will, and I was making money from it. I mean, though technically I am. I think I'm up to like $90 a month on ad revenue. It's not life changing, but let's not joke about it being nothing either, right? Like it's not definitely not zero, but it isn't life changing money. My enjoyment from Warframe is the only currency that I care about. So my bar for criticism is purely, this isn't fun to me. It's not fun anymore, and I will start looking for other games. Or I don't enjoy this content that they've put out, so I don't play it. That's all the real criticism, or all the real critique that I need to give. It's up to DE, because all of the benefit in the situation, in terms of like gaining money, it is up to them to put in the legwork. Even internally, DE's DE jokes, the DE employees joke about DE standing for doesn't explain. Now, it's meant lightheartedly and it should be taken like that, but at the same time, is that really something that you want to keep? Right? Like, is that really a joke that you want to be prevalent for years and years? No, you'd want to fix it. But DE hasn't. Like, a more constructive criticism would be to say, going back to the Yareli quest, I didn't enjoy the Yareli quest. I knocked it out in like an hour or two. But here's the issue. In my alliance, there were a couple of people who could straight up not do the Yareli quest because they have motor control issues. They literally physically do not have the coordination, and they never will, to be able to do that quest. Because of one thing or another, it's obviously personal issues, but they have legit physical issues that prevent them from doing the quest. Which criticism is more valid, right? When you think about like what's more of a benefit, it's up to DE to figure out the nuance in this stuff. It is not my job to train myself to comment in a way that DE finds more enjoyable. If I give unbiased, unabashed, pure stream of thought input, that should be the most valuable currency in terms of feedback that DE can get. And let's be honest, if any of you, God save you if you went to the forums, but if any of you have gone to the forums, you know that there are a couple things where it's such a resounding sentiment about specific things that as soon as the topic gets brought up, you're going to have people like taking a neutral stance because I guess it feels good for them to sort of talk somebody out of something and be like a middle ground and see that the person like wears themselves out. But the fact is the person who's emotionally attached to the game or gets emotional enjoyment out of the game is significantly more likely to spend money. If I wanted to play a game that didn't feel good to play, but was just a game where it was a consistent experience, I would play solitaire. So if the game isn't enjoyable and solitaire is more enjoyable, I would go play another game. So in terms of like feedback, what counts as constructive feedback, I think the entire argument of a company requesting like constructive criticism, it's an issue of effort, and it's not a good comment because one of the things you can definitely say about like DE is in Reddit, like the Warframe subreddit, it's mostly employees making like lighthearted remarks. Like on Twitch, it's all PR, or on Twitch, it's all PR. Most of the high view Warframe clips are literally DE employees clipping the stream. One of the developer streams. If you go to YouTube, the highest viewed Warframe content still is the damn songs. Right? If you go to Warframe and let's see, view count, We All Live Together was 17 million. On the Warframe official channel, Sacral did What is Warframe a couple years ago. The Mashed 100 Days of Warframe, which is a classic. Another song. An intro cinematic. Music. The trailer for Warframe from 9 years ago. Cinematic, song, Markiplier doing a paid thing for Warframe. Intro, song, and a meme build where Gauss versus Gauss with the same build. Okay. Mashed, rewards, song. A guy that is not a Warframe creator talking about would Warframe weapons work as weapons. Song, a death battle thing. This is actual content, but it's not Warframe content. Like, it's not Warframe gameplay. So to say Warframe content as a whole is not entertaining to watch, you have highlights. It's the individual making that like enjoyable. But to say to the average person Warframe content is enjoyable, that is not the case. There are single videos that have more views than all of Warframe content combined. Like, a single video with 1 billion views is more views than all of the Warframe videos put out. Like, so to say it sucks, that might just be the way that person is saying it. But it's up to DE to get constructive criticism out of that. You don't hear about DE employees going, "Oh, why does it suck? What's going on?" There's no conversation going on. So constructive criticism, when coming from somebody who doesn't put the effort in, is literally them just saying, I want you, in terms of like you starting at your point and me starting at my point. That person is saying, I want you to put in all of the effort so I don't have to think. Why aren't there people actively messaging, like experienced players, newer players? Why aren't there DE employees having conversations in region chat? You know what I mean? Like, it's up to them to put that effort into it. It only benefits them. And the idea of, oh, I didn't put in enough effort to make like a constructive criticism. I'm not a shareholder in the company. The benefit to me is I go to where it's most enjoyable. I go to what's worth my time. It is up to them to cultivate an enjoyable experience. And one of the hallmarks of this, to get, I guess, a little bit more meta. Hold on. I closed the damn link. Hold on. One of the hallmarks of this that I think is very telling is that you have something. There's a difference between nerfing something like that's out of balance, something that is absolutely broken, right? And a company that is willing and feels comfortable damaging a player's experience so the game's more grindy. Like, say, for example, like, say, Walmart, right? If any of you have Walmart, I know that there's a bit of an international audience that watches my videos, and I appreciate that. But for those of you that don't know, I'm in the States, and there's a big corporation called Walmart. It's a grocery store plus a lot of other things. It's like a supermarket, right? It's a bunch of different stuff. They have recently started getting rid of cashiers. You will regularly go into a like 2-mile square footage super center, and you'll get there and there's like one human cashier and like 20 self-checkouts. Self-checkout, for the most part, sucks. Unless you just want to get in and out and you don't value somebody being able to talk to somebody, or somebody knowledgeable ringing you out, and like you feel like, oh, they're charging me more, or they're charging me the same amount and they want me to put in more effort, is kind of besides the point. But this signifies that the company feels that they don't have to compete. Because obviously it's something that I guess people over COVID didn't really want to interact with cashiers because like touching and the communicability of the disease. But they took the opportunity to get rid of cashiers. They didn't bring them back, and the prices certainly didn't go down. I'm not getting 5% off my order for going to self checkout. I pay the same price. So the issue is that, are they having to compete and earn my business? Are they having to compete and earn the interest and attention of the people that are playing? And a company that is willing to damage the user experience or the customer experience, it's a telltale sign that they don't feel like they have to make the consumer's experience more like a more positive experience. Because if you're trying to give the maximization of enjoyment out of your game, you would never, ever, ever, ever in a million years damage the player experience. You would want to maximize that. The only way that you would damage it is if you feel like you don't have to earn it. So in terms of like how I look at it, it doesn't feel like Warframe and DE do a lot of really good things. Like mad props to their sound department and to like their level design. It's really been a step up. But in terms of like enjoyment of the game, we waited for almost a year for Echoes of the Zeraman, and it's a single tile set essentially, with a like obviously it's procedurally generated maps, right? But it's a tile set that gets done, and you're running 5 missions over it, over and over and over again. It doesn't feel like the amount of time that went into it. I would rather the levels look worse or less busy or maybe not as polished, but have a better gameplay experience. So in terms of like constructive criticism, when they say that, it feels like they're basically announcing that they don't feel like they have to compete for your attention. And I've been actively playing other games, and because it feels like it's my like balance issue, right? But it feels like over the past month, I've really only played Warframe to answer questions from the Alliance and from YouTube, the YouTube comment section. I genuinely feel like over the past 2 months, since I've been updating like the YouTube channel, that I really only play Warframe and sit in the simulacrum. And not only that, I feel like even doing that for months, I feel like I haven't missed anything. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, that's a me issue. I'm LR2, right? Like, there's nothing for me to farm, right? I go to progress, scroll down, everything's done. Like, there's nothing for me to do. So that's like a me issue. But then you could also go into the other side and argue like, oh, well, Warframe was never designed to be something where you could play for like a ton of hours. Like, it's okay to leave and come back. That's a horribly defeatist attitude. Like, I've heard that before where it's like it's okay to leave a game and come back when an expansion comes out. Why are they not designing something to keep people from leaving? What the hell is that attitude? I don't know where that came from. And maybe it's because I'm a little bit older. But this is a relatively new concept. That games are like, oh, it's okay to leave, just come back when there's like a new version, an update, or an expansion. But we're not going to bother putting out enough stuff for you to do to keep you playing the game. it sounds so foreign even saying it, because, like, again, going with like a grocery store, would it even make sense for a grocery store to go, oh, don't come back? Like, it's okay to not shop here. Just come back when we, like, update the produce section. No, you need regular people. Like, you need regular things for them to do. And there's nothing in the game that takes up that kind of time. And they seem to refuse to do stuff like that. Like, that was part of the thing where it's like, it's been discussed, like, the older players remember the long survivals. Like, honestly, why they haven't, the game's 9, 10 years old or whatever, why they haven't allowed, like, custom maps, like community created maps. Like, there are plenty of games that completely survive on the modding section. Like, everybody plays the game one time, like, say Warcraft 3. Bro, you could have played Warcraft for, like, Warcraft 3 for, like, what, a 20-hour campaign or whatever it was, and then spend thousands of hours in the custom game mode. That's what people came back for. Like, why they don't allow things that have massive returns on, like, attention span. But they want to do these small, repeatable, grinding missions. And it shouldn't take a rocket scientist for DE to realize that this is an issue. And I definitely shouldn't have to say in constructive criticism that the game can be boring at times. There's routine content droughts with, like, not entirely worth it rewards. Like, it's not like we're, like, when we waited for the new war, right? We waited years for it. Duviri Paradox, years. But the fact is we're probably going to get something like an open world, a quest line, if we do. And bounties. Like, what are you expecting at this point? So the idea of waiting for years worth of stuff for something where I'm going to do the quest line in, like, a couple of hours, and then I'm going to grind out the bounties, and once I'm done with the bounties, I'm done with it. I don't have to go back. Just seemed kind of ridiculous. And it shouldn't take constructive criticism to say that sucks. Like, it's not enjoyable. And, like, say, Orvalis, right? It's really hard to spam bounty after bounty because the valley glitches. Like a quest, like the what's the one where you drop the trap for the troop transporter and it rolls over it? I can't tell you how many times that's glitched out. And it would roll over it, trigger the trap, and then it just wouldn't progress. That's been in the game for, like, since it came out. Like, there are some things where you just don't need to say constructive criticism about it. You don't need to put the effort into it. You can clearly look at it and go, this isn't effective. And DE having a long list of, like, a long history of releasing stuff that is not playable. Like, I'll even be as generous as possible and ignore the Railjack release. Okay? Let's talk about the most recent one, the Zeraman. It was a garbage release. Once they patched it up, it was good. But the first week, or say the first 2 days, they got a lot of work done in the first week. But it never should have been released like that in the first place. You don't go buy a car and get it and they say, like, oh, it's like a Corvette or like a nice Mercedes or something. And then you buy it thinking it's a car. They said it was a car. And they're like, oh, no. We're gonna patch up the back seats and the seat belts will work then. No, when you play something, you expect it to work to some extent. any sort of like patches that need to go through need to be like small minor things where it was like literally the quality assessment and the bug finding team just could not have been able to test everything, and it was small stuff. But like with the Zeraman, where literally people were disconnecting in the middle of the mission, and where you would load into a mission and you wouldn't be able to see your teammates, or infinitely being stuck in the elevator. It doesn't take constructive criticism to explain that. And saying whining, like whining is about small stuff, but if it's a customer saying, oh, this isn't enjoyable, it immediately gets into a separate category and it's not whining. Like, say, for example, let's just Google whining. Not very helpful. Annoyingly complain. All right, let's look at the definition of complain. Expression of dissatisfaction or annoyance about something. I don't see how whining would be counted as something that could be dismissed. If you're a company trying to sell to customers, it's not whining at that point. Dissatisfaction or annoyance with something, all of it comes across as something you need to fix if you view yourself as having to earn the attention of your customers, of your players. The fact of like whining is somebody that you have to put up with that can't leave. And that if you want to call it whining, that's fine, right? But just your customers, your players aren't whining if they say something sucks. It's your job to figure that out. And DE doesn't do that. So it might sound like whining because it's so repetitive, but is it actually repetitive, or is it just something that they've ignored for a long time and the same issue keeps coming up? It's not whining at that point. Remember, they have to earn your attention. They have to earn it. So the idea of like, you have to be able to say your point of view, right? Like, hold on, I'm going to get up MS Paint. Okay, picture time. Here we go. Okay, right, so you got a scale, right? You have neutral in the middle. Over here, you have DE. You have us, players, DP for players. Over here, you have things that benefits the player over things that benefit DE, or more their concern, or more their responsibility. Players really don't have responsibility too much. Like, they have the responsibility to be like a decent person and not being toxic. But in terms of complaining, on the player, you just have pure enjoyment, right? Enjoyment right here. Then you have whether something, I would say even further over, completely in the player base, is whether something is worth your money and your time. DE has to do something equally over here that's to a player's benefit, where it should be their highest concern. Player enjoyment, player engagement. Do they enjoy the game? Don't sabotage and over nerf stuff that people have probably spent weeks farming. Because unless you, like, say, like the Brahma and the ammo nerf, right? You can argue that it's like it was needed. Was it really? Like, ammo hasn't really been a big issue for a long time with like the mutation mods. And the fact is like with a lot of stuff, they talked about the ammo changes where you would basically have like instead of having like primary, secondary, shotgun, arch gun, All the separate ammos, it would go down to 2. That was smart. I agree with that. But they specifically excluded the ammo max percentage on the Merciless Arcane, which is a super important arcane for like small magazine or small ammo count weapons. And specifically, the ammo that those weapons carry is so small, you generally cannot carry enough ammo to be able to fully stack the Merciless mod. And then you have how fast the Merciless mod stays stacked. The Merciless mod, the stacks fall off the fastest. It's close, but in terms of like keeping that max stack, the Deadhead mod lasts way longer. It's easier to keep kills up every 20 seconds. And then you have the Dexterity, where I think it's like every 6 seconds, 10 seconds. So the Dexterity and the Deadhead mod last for a little bit longer. But Merciless falls off the fastest. It's 4 seconds per stack? It's in a mission where you're running between rooms. You are having to stack it at the beginning. And by the time you get to the next room, you've already lost a stack or 2. So the Galvanized mods are having to carry you because their stacks last longer. And you use the Galvanized stacks to boost your Arcane Merciless back up. Now, there are some things with players that are in my category where we can do to make the ammo nerf not an issue. Like, you can just Helminth on Terrify onto a bunch of stuff and then go raw damage viral, and it's like the ammo nerf didn't even exist. But that requires mods to do. And though most of this stuff isn't an issue in any way, shape, or form for somebody in my position, for a player that's, say, like MR15, MR16, where the Brahma or the Tonkor or, say, like the Tenet Archiplasmor is like their baby, they might have sunk all of their plat that they've earned so far into that weapon and Forma to upgrade that weapon. And then they probably farmed it up to a 60% Kuver or Tenet weapon. It could represent a sizable time sink. And then for it to be nerfed in a way that they can't do anything about is significantly more frustrating to them, where with me, I can just swap out a mod. But for the person to have their bicycle essentially stolen, like if they are trying to get their one working bicycle so they can do content, and then they nerf this, and the fix for it requires you to either whale out the mod or makes it so the weapon can't be used because it requires like a Barrow mod that you can't afford, it essentially limits that person's ability to play the game. It's not, the nerfs didn't hurt anybody that knew how to fix the stuff. It hurt people that like copy builds and are like learning the game, and they don't understand the multipliers and how to do the math. They don't understand how to find additive versus multiplicative damage on weapons. And then, on top of that, how to do a loadout setup that abuses it. That requires flexibility. So, like, saying criticism of stuff and whining, just keep in mind that the whining is coming from a customer. So, by nature, it is still of value. So saying, oh, thank you for the constructive criticism, like I heard that on the dev stream, is fine. But the fact is like the community hated the new Void Sling. They messed with something and they reduced player satisfaction in the game. The one thing that is universally loved. So they could then pull us in. So we could use what? We could play with console players and eventually phones, that's probably where the real void slings came from. The real adjustment is I can only imagine how frustrating that's going to be. But that being said, as somebody who has a computer with a GPU that costs more than my phone, I don't want to play a computer game that can run on my phone. I want to play a game that can run on my computer. So it's one of those things, is it a gripe? Is it a whine? It depends on how much I bring it up, but me saying it isn't whining. A bunch of people saying it isn't whining. If I bring up that they're nerfing the gameplay experience to accommodate cell phone users, and that's going to reduce my satisfaction in the game, that isn't whining, it's true. And if they keep making it worse, eventually I just won't spend money on the game. And for a company that's trying to make money, it should at least be considered. It's not whining when it's consumers talking amongst themselves and telling the people it's that make the game, this sucks. It's up to DE to filter that out, and they're not doing it. That's why it seems like it's whining. Like, when's the last time you saw a DE employee jump in the forums and literally Q&A a problem down where it's like, okay, so we were thinking this, blah, 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 talk to the player. This is what we were going for. What are the issues that you're exactly having? Oh, okay, so I see what this is. Okay, so you're having an issue with like the mechanics. What exactly are you talking about? Like, you don't see that ever. It wasn't until last TennoCon or the one before, or the last TennoCon, where they even thought to put out a questionnaire. So them complaining about constructive criticism when a questionnaire is rocket science. It's not a measurement. It's not telling on my end as the customer. It's on DE's end that they're not putting in the necessary work. Because I think if the DE, like, they had like the community involvement team or whatever it is, actually engage constructively, going back to constructive, and in this way, like, I would define constructive as in like productive communication, there would probably be a significantly better feeling. Like, if they had like a rating system, like, oh, so we have like 10, 20 bugs that have been reported, help us prioritize these, rank them 1 through 5, and then they just hashed them out. And there was like a website where you could see like the progress they're making on the bug or the game thing or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But it's one of those things where it's like, that would make sense. It would be constructive and that it would produce positive results for DE. But complaining about whining, I think is a bit much. And like asking people you're supposed to be earning the money from them, where they enjoy your game so much they're willing to spend money that they have most likely had to trade hours of their day for. I just can't see where the argument comes in that you then want them to phrase a problem and put in the work. Listen, I'm not a game developer. I don't know how to phrase stuff in a way that's helpful to somebody who doesn't do customer service. It's their side. It's their problem to actually filter this stuff constructively. You need somebody who deals with the forums and interacts with the players regularly. And more importantly, you need somebody that can translate the complaints into usable information for the programmers. And it just doesn't seem like DE's doing that. And it's not whining to say that. Now, maybe my complaints might be more constructive criticism. But if you're tailoring your game to a younger and younger audience and you're ignoring the vets who are like there's a population difference in Warframe, right? You have the older players that never left, the vets. So they're at least 9, unless they were playing Warframe in the womb. Okay. So you at least have a minimum age for a vet that's been playing since the game started. Well, you have to have had a computer. You have to have the motor skills to operate a computer. So say like 4 or 5. You have to be able to, read, write, do math to really enjoy the game, though it's not a requirement. So say like a 14 or 15-year-old. Well, then you add 9 years to that. That's somebody post-college. And you keep tailoring the game to like 10-minute missions for like a teenage audience, but you're ignoring the people that have played your game, that have said yes to it, that have parted with money. One of the things I kind of want to do is I kind of want to ask a bunch of the hyper experienced players, because even though I'm LR2 and like I'm the clan lead and the alliance lead, there are multiple people in the clan and alliance that have hours over 10,000. And all of them call it whining, but all of them essentially have the same handful of points of what they don't like about the game. And it basically comes down to DE ignoring what vets value. We don't care about exclusive content. We don't give a shit about it. So the idea of like the helmet system when that came out, as much of a joke as that reason was, oh, this is a system for the vets. And a week later, or whatever it was, a month later, they reduced the MR requirement down to like MR7 or some garbage like that. It's that there's nowhere to go in Warframe where you need to have all of the mods. You need to have all of the frames. You need to have multiple copies of a frame. There's no place where you need to have multiple copies of a weapon. There's no loadout, skill-based area where you need expansive like weapon stores, right? Because there's no place to go where you can like swap out weapons in the middle of the mission, where you can do a mission for like 4 hours where you can swap guns 10 times based on the wave that you're on or something. It's go into a mission, you cherry pick your enemy, you cherry pick your weapon, you cherry pick the element type, then you figure out some survivability, give yourself like 2 or 3 oh shit buttons, and there's your level cap run. Because you have all the mods, it's a mod setup. So that sort of stuff, it always seems like it's like a bunk argument. DE is supposed to be earning our attention and our time. Right? Like the dynamic is Warframe is a free-to-play game. The dynamic is that you make 90% of your money from the top 10% of the players from the whales. Somebody was telling me like as soon as you put like $20 into the game, you're in like the top 10% or whatever the hell it was. I don't know how true that is. So bro science, don't quote me on that. But you have free to play, so free to play players can populate the game. So the whales have people to play with. But they're going after the people that don't have money when making the game. Not say turn it into a whale's paradise by any means. But like it seems like a really bad and like idea for focusing to just ignore all the vets. Like, listen, I'm in my mid-30s. I know a couple people in their 40s, and we got a couple of people in the Alliance that are older than that. A couple of them got grandbabies, and 2 of them got great-grandkids. And they're in the same boat. MR30, LR1, LR2, with not much to do, and they just sort of dick around. But there's nothing for them to, like, there's no place for, like, those players to go. Like, there's no expansion, right? So complaining about stuff like that, claiming constructive criticism, that's DE's problem. If they can't filter, that's more of a commentary on DE than it is on the player base. If DE can't get through quote unquote whining, and they even call it whining, okay, which is also telling, you have a player that you are attempting to earn money from is saying they don't enjoy something, it's discouraging, or they don't enjoy it. How that's viewed as something that you don't need to fix is beyond me when you are trying to get somebody to willingly part with their money. Like, it just doesn't. They need to earn it. And the dynamic of, oh, you got to be on the team, you got to be understanding a DE. Technically, no, I don't. I mean, any understanding and ability that I give them in terms of like trying to come more to their side, be understanding of like issues taking too long, things being delayed, releases being bugged, should be viewed gracefully, or graciously, not gracefully, because it's not something the player, if you are truly having to earn their time, should ever have to go through. Because I know a lot of people, like the average whale, if you will, and it's my category, I feel like is somebody that just buys the Prime packs when they come out. And that could easily count as a whale. Because for me, I don't have a TV, I don't have a cable subscription, I have internet cable. But in terms of like TV, so I can afford to spend the equivalent of like 15 to 20 bucks a month on this game because I play it so much. But the other side going, oh, you need to do more. Listen, it's not that dynamic. I'm not Team DE. I am a player of Warframe. That Warframe has like earned my time when it does. And if they want to lower the bar and not try to move that higher to where I don't ever want to leave, that is their choice, and that is not something I have to understand. I need to comprehend it, but I don't need to be understanding of it and continue to play. So the value that you want to put on a game is your personal choice. The higher and stricter it is, just know you're going to have a worse time and you might end up sticking to a game for forever. And the more strict it is, you end up adding rules and conditions that favor the game you play anyway. So just consider that. I know this is a bit of a rant, but it's just the idea of calling honest criticism and free thought like a free oh geez, hold on, he actually just replied. This is going to be pretty meta. Give me a second. Hold on. He just replied. I feel like this is what, that congressional hearing where like the doctor was replying to Trump's tweets actively in the middle of the hearing. Hold on. The replies. Okay, he replied, no beef though. Don't want to make it seem like we just have different opinions. Hold on. It gave me... Where is this? Okay, the argument of criticism only serves to allow DE to dismiss feedback. Yeah, that was sort of an extreme. It was a jump. I jumped a couple of times. He says, what? On another note, if you're a developer, you're more likely to see someone go, hey, I don't really like this. It's not fun or intuitive. It's probably be better this way, and go, I'll think about it. On the flip side, if you have everyone and their mother going, this update is dog shit because I don't like it. The dev stream didn't have the content I expected or want, so DE sucks ass and shouldn't bother having one. DE once again delayed something. I'm going to have a hissy fit. Even though we all knew it would happen. knew it would happen. It happens year after year, so it shouldn't be surprised. True. Uh, but I'm going to act like it so I can talk massive shit about how incompetent uh, how incompetent DE is, even though before the stream the whole community suspected it would be delayed. You're going to just ignore what they say, even if they follow it. Talking about constructive feedback and whining. I love that you started to hit me with a wall of text, but dog, I need you to use some punctuation here. You're just going to ignore what they say, even if they follow it up with actually good advice. With actual good advice example, nearly every major player in the Warframe content sphere has a video that's 90% ragging on DE, and then in the main last minute go, oh yeah, I think Warframe's a great game, the update was bad, and offers a half-ass idea on how to fix it, or just talk about Warframe's falling off. No, I agree. I noticed this too. Where they'll give like a dog shit couple of clips where it's like something glitched, and then they'll try to like backtrack it. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that most of the content in Warframe does come from creators. Like when you look at like views and click rates, right? Like talking about like the Kengineer, right? And in order to be like a Warframe content creator, I don't know if the Kengineer is, but say like Nightmare Frame or something, you can't bash the game too hard. Like you just can't trash it or say exactly in like an unfiltered way, and it gives the audience the chance to actually hear and break down mentally what you had to say. So everything's always hyper polished and like PC, so they can't get like really hammered on something. They'll just give like some shit examples with no context, right? But anyway, continuing. That's 90% ragging on D, and then the last minute go, oh yeah, I think Warframe's a great game. The update was bad, and offer half-assed idea on how to fix it. I think the half-assed idea, I understand what you're saying in terms of like the ideas being like not complete, but I think it might have tilted because of how DE deals with these. Because it's a pretty common thread in experienced players, like once you get like a couple thousand hours, that DE does not listen to feedback. So it is incredibly frustrating, which is probably why the sentiment gets echoed so much, is because the proper outlet for it is literally not listening. In terms of like I don't like this, and they'll go, oh, okay, our bad, we'll fix it. It's only when there's like a quote unquote uproar that DE will do something about it. If the intensity of the stimulus to proceed change was lower, it wouldn't have to be so noisy in order to get them to do something. If they actually had a place where it was like, okay, we're getting player feedback, give us feedback on this, and they were showing, okay, these are the top 5 things for the month, we're going to work on these based on community feedback. I think that would be miles ahead. It wouldn't be a complete fix. So talking about half-assed ideas. But just anything where DE says, hey, you had a good idea, we're going to work on this, I think would be miles ahead of where they are. Because right now, you have no idea what they're talking. Like, you have no idea what they're working on, what bugs they're fixing. They could give, like, a simple status update. Like, okay, like, we know X, Y, and Z aren't working properly. Okay, you guys didn't like blah, blah, blah. How do you want it fixed? Like, tell us what you want. You can have it any way that you want. You want longer missions, we'll give you longer missions. You want quicker missions, we'll give you some quicker missions also. And it just doesn't seem like Warframe, DE Warframe, ever does that. They obviously try. Like, nobody's claiming that they don't try, but they're not communicating when you talk about like constructive. They're not really communicating with the player base. Oh, hey, a comma. You can see this in many debates. Once it starts off as shit talking, it never goes anywhere. Yeah, true. But and turns into a mud fight, so DE just kind of mangles together an update to keep the shit talkers happy, but forget that making an update following the people giving criticism would be healthier long term. Oh, he's on a phone. Okay, you're forgiven. Oh, also, just so you know, William Martin, if you are talking into the phone, you can actually say punctuation. So I could be like, if I were to reply to this, I were to go, hey, I think this is a great idea, comma. I really like blah, blah, blah. You expanded on X, Y, and Z, period. And talk like that. It's really annoying, but it allows you to stay hands-free. And skip the entire thing. And obviously it's faster than texting, but it wouldn't be as fast as like predictive text, right? But yeah, just so you know. Hit you with the heart. Wow, that was kind of meta, actually being able to reply to a comment as you wrote it. So anyway, yeah, pretty basic, my dudes. But I think that's enough beating this. Literally 2-hour-long videos in a day, and I'm well past my bedtime. But yeah, no issues. Like you said, oh, you don't want to seem like no beef. No, it's fine, no beef. Also, I think, what does he do? It seems like he's a bit of a Minecraft YouTuber, but William Martin, actually, if you enjoy solo survival streams, it appears he has a couple of them. An Ash survival, 10 minutes, I dig it. Oh my god, where's all? A 60-minute Frost survival from 3 years ago, respect. Go give him a follow. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. And I'll hit him with the subscribe. I appreciate you, dude, and I appreciate you commenting back. No, I got what you were saying. But please, a period. You had like 4. All good, though. Anyway, take it easy, dudes. Have a blessed day. Small rant. I feel like these are a little more acceptable in terms of videos. If I do something productive with like another video, I can sort of get away with doing this, but I don't want the rant videos to be like a bread and butter thing. I've seen some content creators go down that road, and you just end up having to escalate and I guess get like more outraged or invested in it. And that's just not my style. You either becomes hyper toxic or like the biggest fanboy, and it's like, listen, I'm middle-aged, I just don't have the damn energy. Okay, so did something productive with the Korra thing, showed it was additive damage, showed where it applied. So I feel like this is a bit of a freebie. So anyway, thank you guys for hanging out. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. William Martin's channel will be linked in the info panel. It seems like he's doing Minecraft solo survivals. So if you like that content, head over and check him out. Have a blessed day, my dudes. Take it easy.